point number one on this one, and we're going to talk about body composition. So it's what your mind controls you. So if you've got a body composition goal, we'll say if it's weight changes or your self-image, it's the mental struggles that catches people an awful lot of the time. So when they look at the scales and the scale starts changing on a weekly basis or a daily basis, your mind plays tricks on you in terms of you really believe that your weight is going up, where it could be just a food choice you had the night before and it's a small bit of water weight that has came on, or maybe it actually is your current diet. Maybe you are overeating in calories and you're not noticing it yourself. So your mind is a massive player in this, and what you need to do here is you need to just basically take a step back and take a realistic look at what the problem is, what the situation is. That's the most important. Don't let your first thought dictate what you are going to do next, okay? And then when it looks at self-image, people will look at themselves and think they're overweight, or they're not in the best shape, or they're not this, they're not that. And a lot of the time, they don't see the view from the outside. So somebody comes along and tells you, okay, you're looking really well, and you don't really believe it, you don't really think it. So that's where people will struggle an awful lot with mental image. So it's kind of a thing where with body composition, anything with body image, you just need to kind of take a step back and say, okay, what are the actual stats here? Where was my weight 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 8 weeks ago? What's my current training like? What's my current nutrition like? And do I look the actual way I think? And that's the most important thing, is that you're actually looking at that and you're actually saying to yourself, okay, just take a step back and looking at the bigger picture straight away, not just jumping straight in with your first thought that comes into your mind. That brings us on to point number two, and a lot of people struggle on the mental side with training as well, because when it comes to weight training, especially when the progression is not there and they're struggling with progression in the weights room, they let their mind control their sessions, where they're getting very frustrated when weights don't come off the floor, or when they're not progressing with their goal. And the same with your cardiovascular training. If you're training for an event and you might have a couple of bad days, say if it's a running event like a marathon, half marathon, you're letting your mind control you. Then it's just when you have 1 or 2 bad days doesn't dictate what your whole training cycle has been. So you have to look at it again from the outside and don't let that first thought that comes into your mind control you. That brings on to point number three, and nutrition can be a very, very mental struggle for people, because tracking can be very stressful and frustrating. People just believe in their head they can't actually do that. But if you go along and get a coach and they show you a structured way to do it, it can be very, very simple. And again, that first thought that comes into the head, you can kind of take a step back from it and say, right, how can I fix this? And not let my mind control me there. And food choices as well. People can get very, very stressed over food choices, which is really, really important that they make the right choices, but sometimes they might just fall off the path a small bit. But again, it goes back to just taking that step back, maybe talking to your coach if you have one, and say, look, I made a bad choice here this day, but that's not going to dictate my entire nutrition plan in 1 day or 124 hours. That brings us to point number four, where we talk about daily stress, and stress is hugely prevalent nowadays. People have high stressful jobs, they get very, very stressed in all these points as well, such as bills and bills and bills. So again, the mental side of that is really important, that you can give your mind a rest from it. So maybe taking time to go for a walk and just clearing your mind, listening to something on a podcast, or maybe just sitting with your family and friends and just really switching off from all of this stuff and just really taking the social side of it a bit more, doing a bit more social stuff with your family and friends. People are not going to speak about this stuff, and where you can just totally switch off and take your mind away from it, and that's really going to help you on the mental side. But stress can be a massive player in this whole thing. It's kind of the central point that creates all the problems. Bonus point on this one, guys, is don't let your mind control you. So the most important thing is when that first thought comes into it about any of these issues, just take a step back and say, okay, is it as bad as I think it is? And then just look at 1 or 2 steps that you can do to change this situation a small bit. Or take a step back a little bit maybe and say, okay, hold on a second, especially with body imaging and self-imaging, which is a huge thing at the moment. People watching people on Instagram and thinking that they should look like them, or why don't they look like them, because I train as much as that person portrays. So just take a step back and look at the bigger picture and just give yourself a minute and say, right, okay, is it as bad as I actually think it is? Hey guys, if you like what you hear, you find us on peakperformancekillarney.com. We are on social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and you'll also find us on our YouTube channel at Peak Performance Killarney. Thanks for listening.